Hey friends, it's Nitya with Karma Chameleon. I am so happy to see you today. So one of you requested that I do one of the Feng Shui tutorials about taking the compass reading for creating the Ba-Gua of your house for Feng Shui. So I've taken you outside of my house and I am standing with my back to the front door. So if I were holding my phone, I would point it out so that I'm looking down, calibrate your compass on your phone app, and face it out into the yard. And that is going to give you your degree. You can do the old school kind of compasses too. There's lots of compasses out there. I have to say, it took me years to give up the old tried and true Boy Scout, Girl Scout kind of compass, but I do find that the one on the phone is pretty accurate. All right, so once you have done that, that gives you the compass degree that your home faces in order to get the Ba-Gua down on your floor plan. But there is a trick, because some houses will have a very big picture window that brings in tons of light, and then that could be your facing direction. What if you have a big picture window that's in a very dark part of the Ba-Gua, like the northeast, where it doesn't get a whole lot of sunlight and maybe it's very shadowed, and the front door gets a ton of sunlight? So ultimately, your facing direction is one of the most important things in starting your Feng Shui journey. I will say for the most part, most of us take the reading from the front door. But then once we have that information, there are other pieces to also take into consideration, like which door you come into. And that's a whole nother kettle of fish. Let's go back inside. It's a little chilly this morning. It feels very much like autumn. All right, so once we have that compass degree and we are looking at what is the door that I use the most, because this is what I hear from people all the time. I go up and knock on that door, ring the doorbell, because I'm going to show you my mud room and tell you why I wouldn't want to use this for my front door facing, because now I'm in my mud room. And a mud room is just that. It's a landing place for all the shoes and all the stuff, right? I don't necessarily want to be coming in through that place. Even though I take my shoes off when I come in the door, I carry them to the mudroom. Yeah, I know. Now, if I'm doing yard work, well, then coming in the mudroom makes sense, right? Yeah. There's all these functionalities that need to be considered when we are putting together the feng shui of our home, which is why a lot of people hire a consultant. It can be complicated. If you have a standard home, like a colonial, like a row house, like a Cape Cod or a rancher, it's a whole lot easier. Because the way that the house is designed is an easier read than one that is modern and has lots of angles and missing corners and a lot other more information to really like figure out. So a lot of houses, and I know I've talked a lot about how much I don't like American design. I don't know about other places in the world. If anybody wants to fly me to the moon or someplace else on this lovely planet to do their house, I'm up for it. So a lot of people use garage entrance doors, back doors, side doors, and a lot of that has to do with where the driveway is bringing you to. And I kind of call that the bat door, like Batman escaping out the back door, right? But the problem with all of that is not the intended place to enter your home. The front of your house is your mouth. And in fact, if you look at a floor plan, this is one I drew. Sometimes we don't have a floor plan for a house. And I have this weird ability, I don't know how, to walk through a house and there, right there, sit down at the dining room table or whatever, and I can take the house as I've walked through it and place it pretty accurately. This is not to scale, though somehow it is. It's a hidden gift of mine. I'll take it. It's fabulous. It's worked for 20 years. So when you look at the design of a house, the front door is your mouth. That's where your head is. You're receiving. It's like you're digesting the chi coming in the front door, which is why the entrance is so important, to have this be vibrant, healthy, clean, tidy. Not something that's been neglected and abandoned with last year's Christmas wreath still hanging on it. I've seen these things. And not with leaves and dirt and mail and old newspapers piled up because nobody goes to the front door. If this is your head and this is the mouth where you receive the chi and you're coming in through the back, well, the back is your butt. What are you bringing in there? I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. I don't know that I want an answer for that, honestly. And then the rest of your body's form is kind of like squished up into the house. Now, when I talked about the 5 elements, sorry, the lighting keeps going in and out. When I talked about the 5 elements, I talked about how important it is to look at the directions on your Ba-Gua, on this floor plan. When we call it the Ba-Gua, it's after we have laid out the directions that each room is sitting in. And often a room occupies more than one, especially, it's another one of these design features that's new, everybody busting down walls, big open concept. You wind up with an energy fishbowl. It's a fishbowl. It is really hard to contain the chi. You can try. I still design a house with an open concept where this room is this direction, so we're going to highlight these qualities with this texture, these colors, this design. But really, ultimately, it's all swimming around. I love some walls. Love family. Love everybody being together. You know, some things, I will say make sense, like being able to see a family room from the kitchen, right? Especially if you have young kids and you're trying to keep an eye on everybody while cooking, or how you entertain. But for the most part, I would want each room to be its own container with its own purpose that's unique and special to maybe one or more people in the house. All right. Lots to be said about the facing direction and that door you use the most. Now, what happens, and I hear this a lot of arguing. People will pay me a whole lot of money to fight with me over what they've just paid me to tell them. Use the front door. The front door is everything. If you have a garage that forces you to come in through a laundry room or a mud room, at least open the front door every day. This is a ritual I started in this house. I open the front door and I take in the day. What's the weather? What does it feel like? Today felt like a cozy sweater. Ooh. And, what birds are in the sky? What are the trees doing? What's the traffic like? All these things. Is there a neighbor that I can say hey to? welcome to the day, good morning, right? So opening the front door in a lot of ways is a way to kind of say, I'm ready for my day, right? I'm opening up this chi and bringing it in. Let's start. Let's go. And even if that's the only time of the day you're going to use that door, maybe find other reasons to keep that door open and active, especially if it has really positive flying star numbers. Okay? You don't want to miss out. So that's what I'm going to say about the front door. But again, if you've got, like, this house has a big bay window, it still is facing northwest, and the big facing window is close enough to the front door for me to say, yes, the front door is facing northwest too. There are 3 numbers for each direction. 1, 2, 3. 2 is really my favorite because it means that you are solid in that direction. Like, my house faces due north, so it is straight in the center of north. What we want to avoid, I'll show you this now. This is it's called an integrated chart for Feng Shui. It has the 64 hexagrams, it has the 24 mountain orientations, the Ba-Gua and star numbers. Boof, all that information. But anyway, this is the wheel. And on the wheel, we've got oodles of information. And what we want is to get the directions laid down onto the floor plan. So this is north. We've got at the top, the first quadrant going around is the trigram. And this goes back to the I Ching, the Book of Changes, one of the oldest oracles on the planet, something I've been using for, oh my gosh, most of my adult life. And you might want to check it out. It's a really, really cool system of divination. All right, so this is your trigram. Then the next one, the next quadrant is telling us the element and any animals involved, okay? So for instance, the east we know is rabbit. The southeast is the dragon and the snake. The south is the horse, and it goes around. All right, next we've got each of the directions. And then the piece that I look at, which is the direction you got from your compass. So what I would do, I also have one that's transparent. I'm sure you can find this online. Everything is online, isn't it? All right, so once I have this, I'm going to lay my floor plan over top, and I'm going to make that adjustment, okay? And usually I put this into up against a window where I can get transparency to see through this. But I'm going to adjust. I'm going to adjust this until I have lined up the front door to that facing degree. And from there, with a light pencil, I will sketch in where the directions are. Some people do pinwheel like this. Some people like to use squares. This is a floor plan of my house, which is, you know, obviously the ideal is that, but it is definitely does not show up as something you just sketch out on, you know, a random piece of paper. It needs to be very carefully thought out and done as accurately as possible, okay? So the cool thing about this is that once you've got all of this information down, you can start to really see what's happening. For instance, what happens if my house, instead of facing 0 degrees, which is pretty cool, I love that, let's say it is more like 28 degrees. Or 25 degrees. Why do I say that? Because what happens with the 1 and the 3, remember I was saying that there's 1, 2, and 3? This line that divides between the directions is a ghost gate. You never want the facing degree of your home to be anywhere near the ghost gate. And that is usually within 5 degrees of where it's changing to another direction. What happens with ghost gate homes? I feel like I've had at least one of those. It's an unfortunate thing because what happens is your home is not, let's say, for instance, northeast, and it's not north. It's riding the line. Now, yeah, you can still use all those principles I showed you, all the tools, and you can line it up and create your Ba-Gua on your floor plan. That isn't going to change the fact that your house is riding between 2 directions. And so what that now means, it's like you're not betwixt or between. You're not here or there. Then where are you? It leads to a home that creates constant instability. Now, if you have a Bazi Chinese astrology that is very fortunate and you're going through a really awesome luck cycle, things are going great, you live in a house like this, it may lessen the good fortune. It may not impact you at all because you're in such a great time. But if you have an average chart or a chart that's problematic and you're going through a difficult luck cycle and you live in a house like this, life starts to go sideways. I often say within the first 3 months of living in a house, moving into a home, you should know pretty quickly the flavor of that house and what it feels like to you. When you move into a house, and I have a client with this, and you just cannot unpack. You don't feel at home. You don't feel settled. The house isn't accepting you, and this really does happen. Then it's kind of like this impasse. You're rejecting the house and the house is rejecting you. Other things happen in the first 3 months. You may notice a sudden uptick in income or a sudden loss of income. You may notice sudden fighting in relationships or sudden accord. A lot of things happen when we move. It is no doubt one of the biggest things that we do in our lives. We are putting ourselves into an entirely new energetic space. When I moved into this house almost a year ago now, the first thing I did was sage it when it was empty and I first took occupation of the house. And I said to this house, I do not own you. I am here in relationship with you. I will take care of you and love you. I will nourish your walls and the space with beautiful things and a loving, peaceful, compassionate environment. I ask you to keep me safe and help me to thrive. And I can tell you, this first year has taught me a whole lot about this house, about this property, and about me, and why I'm here. So pay attention. The house is not just a house. You're in a relationship. And so honor the relationship. Honor the house for how it was designed to be. Use the front door. get your Ba-Gua down on your floor plan and create the home that you truly deserve, desire, and are able to create. And I welcome your questions. This is, it's always a multi-layered adventure when you're going into getting your Ba-Gua on your floor plan and starting a Feng Shui process. And again, having a professional consultant like myself, and I am available for Zoom consults. They're awesome. They work well. Let me know. I'm booking now for the fall, winter. And one last thing, if you've got a really tricky house with lots of angles, or maybe you're in a condo or an apartment or home with lots of big windows, maybe you've got missing corners where your house is shaped like a C or an L or some other, a V, oh my gracious, you definitely need some help, because reading a house that is different in design is going to help you in the long run. So thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you soon. Until then, be well.